Sasol shareholders will be asked to vote in the sale of a 50% stake in its base chemicals operation at Lake Charles in the US to LyondellBasell. The $2 billion it will receive will go towards paying down debt that's built up as a result of the Lake Charles project. Joining me with more is Theo Botha. He's shareholder activist from Proxy View. Theo, Sasol appears to be in a corner. Was this a forced sale?
So, I mean, it's quite a difficult issue to say whether it's a forced sale or not. I think at the end of the day, they need to sell certain of their assets in order to make sure their balance sheet is stronger. Whether this is a forced sale or not, it's going to be very difficult. I mean, we're still waiting for the circular to come out to actually see whether this price is a fair price or not.
Do you think it's a fair price?
Well, I think we need to see how much, we need to see the circular. I think you need to see the circular to actually be able to attain whether it's a fair price or not, because in the circular, it'll give you certain information as regards to costings and how much money they put in. So difficult to ascertain that at this stage.
So you're talking about a circular because shareholders are being asked to approve the transaction. They weren't asked to approve the initial investment in Lake Charles, which has ballooned from $8.9 billion to $12.8 billion. Why is that?
Yeah, in 2014, when I attended an AGM, Sasol AGM, I actually specifically referred to this. I found it quite strange that here was a company going on quite a big project at that time, and they didn't actually have to put forward a circular. The reason for that was because their share price was at quite a high level, which means that their assets in terms of their market value was very high, and therefore in terms of the JSE rules and regulations, they didn't have to put forward a circular. So the question that I raised at that specific AGM is, well, you know, shareholders don't really know and can never hold you to account if you do ever have overruns in terms of the returns. And I felt that a circular should have been put forward to the shareholders so the shareholders could have made informed decisions. Based on that circular then going out, shareholders then could hold the company to account, because as there were cost overruns, obviously that would have affected their internal rate of return. And I feel that I've been vindicated in that.
So you're saying big projects like these should be put to shareholders even when they don't fall under the Class 1 transaction criteria?
Yeah, you would have expected Sasol to have been able to perform on this big project, because I think they had the expertise. They have done big projects, although I think some of their big projects have had cost overruns, but not in the extent as to this cost overrun. But yeah, they didn't perform, and shareholders have lost money here in this regard.
Theo, who's been held accountable for this? Former joint CEOs left last year, but it was without any admission of misconduct or incompetence over the project. Has there been accountability?
I don't think so. We often see CEOs leaving. So yes, we've had these two joint CEOs resigning, but we also had Constable. I mean, this project was started by Constable when he came on board. And this was his baby. And then basically the project, I don't know, didn't go well. And then he suddenly left. But we never really see any accountability. So how will you have accountability? Well, maybe what we should have is we should have clawbacks in terms of if we paid out short-term bonuses. Let's say we paid the two CEOs short-term bonuses in 2016, 2017, and 2018. And there should be a clawback on those bonuses, because we can quite clearly see that there were deficiencies. There was a breakdown in internal control. There was also a breakdown in terms of communication. And I mean, this was conveyed to me at the 2019 AGM. Very few directors accept accountability or responsibility for their actions. They just seem to say, okay, we've resigned, and that's it, they move on.
Theo, your confidence in the company's future Sasol strategy under current CEO Fleetwood Grobler?
Well, Fleetwood has only had one job in his life, and that is with Sasol. He started with Sasol, I suppose, when he was finished university. So can we have confidence in him? I don't know. At the end of the day, I think shareholders have lost confidence in Sasol, because here they had a big project. They put forward good numbers in 2014, 2015 when they put the project to the shareholders. Shareholders held them to account when there were overruns. They allayed shareholders' fears as regards those overruns, and yet we still see these issues. So I think the new CEO will have to build on the reputational risk or reputational damage that has been done by the previous CEOs and previous management. And that's it. But at the end of the day, maybe shareholders haven't done enough. Maybe your bigger shareholders, the PIC, IDC, and your asset owners and asset managers should be holding these companies to account and should be insisting that there's allocation of responsibility and accountability in this regard.
Theo, given the debt situation at the moment and the hurdles it has to meet by next June, do shareholders have any choice but to approve the transaction at the general meeting on the 20th of November?
Yeah, so I suppose, yeah, in the catch-22 situation, they'll probably all approve the transaction. But the devil is in the detail in these circulars. And the bottom line is to see, well, what are we selling it out for? And are we actually getting a good return? My feeling on this is, well, maybe the buyer is actually getting a very good deal. And why should we give such a good deal? I mean, they went along and they did their numbers and they were found wanting and they went over target, okay? And to compound the problem, the weak Brent oil price compounds that problem. And maybe they're hoping that this person will turn it around. Maybe they have to sell because they don't have the expertise to run this plant.
Yeah, we have to leave it there for now, but thanks very much for chatting to us.
Super, thank you so much.